When I look back in my life and kind of look at my spiritual journey and all the things I've done, and there are many, 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 what it all really comes down to, at least for me, and I'm sensing it is for everyone, is to just drop in to who we really are. It's like letting ourselves be plugged in. Could be just like thing in an outlet, or I used a metaphor for the avatar where they are flying out on their dragons and they just hook in their ponytail into the dragon so they're one. And it is a good metaphor because it kind of that is what it all boils down to. I can't really see anything outside of that that is more important. It's like you plug in to the portal of I am. And from there, it's there. If you imagine a portal that just opens up to the whole universe where everything is. It's an exit out of the mind or out of the matrix. Same thing, really. And an entry into or a plugging in. It's not an enter because it's already there, but it's just our attention needs to plug in to who we truly are. And all the work I have done, of course, I can't speak for you, you can check that out, is just to come back home to experience peace, love, connection, oneness. These are the things everybody wants. And it is tempting to get hooked into the matrix where there are many, many experiences available, the whole gamut from just the darkest dark to the lightest light. It can also be deceptive. Even the light can be deceptive. And that's why we have to be really clear on what it is that we really want. And I don't know if there's an easy answer to that. I just know in myself that I just need to be plugged in to my true being. And it is kind of a resting place, it's a parking space. And we don't need to get in the car and leave all the time. We can stay in the car and let the energy there drive us. Of course, we may have beautiful experiences along the way, and there might be some challenging experience along the way. But it has to come from here. We have to come back. When I sit down to just be quiet or to meditate, it really feels like I just drop into myself. And it's not that I wasn't there before, but there's all these distractions all the time. And we kind of we're tempted to engage, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the practice is, in my experience, to just come back home and then practice to stay here while we are also engaging in the world. Because then we're not separate from this. Then we are not a branch that is cut off and is separate from this. We are the trunk with the branch, and it's all connected. And then the flow or the juice or the sap from the trunk flows out into the branches, into our experience, but only when we are connected to it. So why don't we just take a moment again and just take a breath and do your best to just let yourself fall back into yourself. And, and let that, it's like your presence. It is you. It is your presence. It is presence that you are experiencing, and I am individually, but not separate. It is not separated from it. It is just a unique individual experience of it. And then what happens when I let myself go there? It just feel like there's an expansion. So it's like allowing yourself that presence that you are. You don't need to go to the mind and find out what it is or interpret it or want something from it. You just allow yourself to sink in, and then it's almost like you just allow yourself to expand out. Because now you're hooked in, the plug is plugged in, and now you can start experiencing the presence as an expansion. And of course, the expansion is so different than the mind. When we're in the mind, there is a big contraction. The mind is a contraction into duality and lack and limitation and all the things that we're fighting and trying to change because we want this experience inside here, which is our own presence. And this presence, we may experience it as just, very small, nothing, no big deal around it. But that's okay. That's because we have not spent a lot of time with it yet. But then over time, you can just start allowing yourself to expand out. It happens on its own. It's not like you have to, okay, now I'm going to expand. You just drop in and then you just allow it to do what it does or what it is, and it is the full expansion of everything. So it is already out here. So by going inside, we just allow ourselves to be expanded out to what is already here, to what we already are. And then we can just stay there. We can just be curious. Being curious to me is more alive than trying to fill the space. There's many teachings that are learning, how to manifest and how to create things. That's all fine. That's also fun, if we want to do that. There's nothing wrong with anything. But I do believe that there are many of us these days who really long to come back home. It's like it's been a long journey in duality and all the conflict and problems, suffering, struggling. There's a part of us that's like, okay, I've had enough. Can I please go home now? And we can go home because home is just here waiting for us. And if we spend more time here at home and letting it just expand out, then that can start living our lives as opposed to the mind. So the expansion will start showing us what life is really about outside of the matrix or outside of the mind, because we don't know that when we spend all our time in here trying to fix it. And, we're doing all these, we turn ourselves into pretzels sometimes just to come home. And I do believe there is a lot of value in a lot of practices that we can do to let go so we can drop back in. So I'm certainly not criticizing any of it. I've done plenty of it myself. And if it's helpful to help us let go, then, we are doing what we want. And then when we let go, it really is like here and there. And the more we can be that here and there as one thing, as one expression, we are naturally helping the whole frequency of the planet, this 3D planet. We help it raise in frequency so that more and more of us are going to experience this. And more people might start longing for that without really knowing why. It's like, gosh, no, I just want peace. And they really feel it instead of pushing it away because they're so busy making money, surviving, being successful, whatever it is that we do. We forget that the answer is already who we are. It doesn't show up overnight for most of us. For some, it's a long journey, but there's really nowhere else to go. So why don't we take just one more little deep breath? And on your in breath, you can just let yourself drop inside. And you can even just say to yourself, I, or I am, without your name, without your title, without your gender, without your past, your future, just the purity of I. I am. Just as you just focus or turn your attention to I or to presence, it's almost like a surrender, giving ourselves to that. And then it can start taking over. So it's like getting to the portal, saying, okay, I'm ready. Thy will be done. And then we just need to sit there as long and or as often as needed until a lot of that resistance and programming has melted away, has softened enough so we can start feeling and sensing and connecting with what we deeply long for. The longing, in my experience, is very, very important because it comes from your own presence. It comes from your own divinity that is calling you home. It's calling all of us home. So let's make ourselves available for it and take time every day to just drop in, let yourself expand out, or let it expand you out so you know you're not just this little tight ball in your mind. You drop into your heart, allow your heart just to have you, the heart, soul, spirit, whatever you call it. And then just let it have you. Let it have you in its full capacity, or in the capacity that you and I are able to receive it at this point. It will be different for each one of us. Yeah, and we can do that many times a day. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be just a minute here and there to pause, take a deep breath, and just come back into what we really want is the love, the peace, and just take a nice breath into that, or let yourself soak in it. And in that way, we are surrendering to it. We're not surrendering to an outside something that we don't know what is. We're simply surrendering to our own divine expression of I am. And we don't know what's is going to unfold from there, but it can only be good. Because when you sense into this, there is a peace, there is a love, there is an expansion, a presence that feels good. So we can allow that goodness to start living our lives more and more.